Hello, Flow friends. Welcome to the very first session of MVPDays Microsoft Flow Conference. The session is called Meet Microsoft Flow. My name is Melissa Hubbard. I'm super excited and honored to be kicking off this amazing conference as somebody who's been using Flow and speaking about it since it basically became available. It's been awesome to watch the product grow and now to see this huge community that has grown around the product. So one thing I want you to keep in mind, we would like you to be engaged in this conference by using the hashtag MSFlowConference on Twitter. So if you have any questions, comments, or you want to reach us, use that hashtag throughout the conference and make sure you stay tuned all day because there's some amazing speakers that are going to follow this. A little bit about myself. Again, my name is Melissa Hubbard. I'm a project manager with Witham Digital. We are based out of the DC area. We have an office in Bethesda. I'm at MellyHub is my Twitter handle. I have a blog at mellyhub.com where I mostly blog about Flow and Microsoft Teams. So I'm an Office 365 consultant. I came from a SharePoint background, moved into Office 365 consulting. I have a project management background in the PMP, and I'm recently an author of an end user guide for mastering Microsoft Teams with a co-author named Matthew Bailey. User adoption, governance, training around Office 365 are topics that I'm especially passionate about. I've always been very interested in business process automation and all that it can do to help people get their jobs done smarter, faster, more efficiently, etc. I'm also a Flow MVP, one of the first 5 in the world, and we're growing, and I'm so happy about that. I want to give a shout out to our DC Flow user group. Woo! Hey guys! Our next meeting is going to be January 23rd. So you may have been noticing that Flow and Power Apps user groups have been sprouting up across the globe. So you definitely want to get connected with your community as you're learning Flow. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to meet Flow. We're going to talk about what Microsoft Flow is, what it does, and where it fits in. We're going to talk about the components of a flow, templates, approvals, and how to get started. My main goal from this session is that if you have not built your first flow yet, you will have what you need to be able to go and build your first flow. And better yet, tweet about it or email me about it and share the goodness. All right, so let's get into it. So work less, do more is the motto for Microsoft Flow. It helps people and teams work smarter by automating business processes across their apps and data. So that's very important. It's not just SharePoint, it's not just Dynamics, it's not just built for one product. You can really cross your data throughout many different services. It's a cloud-based business process automation service. It's meant for the power user, for the citizen integrator. It provides user-friendly solutions to automate your personal and organizational business processes. This was a change for me to get used to coming from a person who did a lot of SharePoint Designer workflows. I was always creating workflows that were meant for an enterprise or meant for an organization. With Flow, you can do that, but you can also create flows that you can use for your personal use, like syncing your calendars or sending emails in a series of approvals that you do in your day-to-day job. I want to repeat again that this connects with many different services. It connects with your Office 365 apps, Dynamics 365, and over 195 software as a service, cloud services, file providers, databases, web APIs, productivity apps, and more. So yes, the rumor is true, if you want to call it that. SharePoint Designer will eventually be replaced by Microsoft Flow. So the newest version of SharePoint that has just been released on premises is 2019, and your designer workflows will still be working in that version. However, Flow is becoming deeper and deeper integrated into SharePoint. And many of the things that you could do with Designer, you can do with Flow. So Flow is a streamlined version of Azure Logic Apps, if you're familiar with that product, but it's meant for the business user, citizen integrator, whereas Azure Logic Apps is more of a developer tool. So you can create flows from scratch based on your needs and your business processes, but we also have templates that can get you started. And we're going to go into those a little more. A really cool thing about Flow is that there's a great mobile app that you can use to track, manage, and create flows. Many of the very first flows I created carpooling on my cell phone. And to go along with the mobile app are buttons, which is a really cool personal business process automation piece of functionality with Flow, where you can create a button to do an action when you press it, and you can even add inputs once you press that button. And I won't go into them too much because I believe there's a whole session on buttons later in the day. And so Flow is subscription based. There is a free version. There's a version that comes with Office 365, so you should see it in your waffle of Office 365 as one of the apps you can use. And then there are also multiple packages. And you can manage your flows in a central administration center. That administration center has grown and grown in functionality. It's very robust at this point on what you can do to manage your flows. And just another visual of what it does. So some of the main functionality: getting notifications, copying files, collecting data, automating approvals. These are all common business process automation scenarios that we can use Flow to make our lives simpler, work less, do more, right? Live the dream. And where does it fit in? So Flow is part of a powerful and adaptable business application platform that includes Power BI, Power Apps, Flow, as well as SharePoint, the Common Data Service, Office 365, and Dynamics 365. So these tools are for power users. They're really meant to empower the business users who know their business the best. They know their processes the best. It empowers them to be able to create their own solutions to make their work more efficient. All right, so what are the components of a flow? Connectors. So connectors are how you connect your services to Microsoft Flow. For some of the more technical people that are watching, it's a proxy or wrapper around an API that allows the underlying service to talk to Microsoft Flow. You can connect to on-premises systems with a data gateway. So if you're using SharePoint on-premises, you can use Microsoft Flow, and I know several organizations that have started using Flow using the data gateway. And also, you can create, connect, and share custom APIs as well. So if the service that you want to use Flow with is not here, then there is a process to create custom APIs. All right, so flow triggers. Triggers are what start your flow. It's an event that gets the flow going. They can be triggered from an event in any of the services that Flow connects with. So an example of that is a SharePoint item being added to a list. That could trigger your flow. But also it could be someone tweeting a tweet that has a certain hashtag. That could trigger your flow. Flows can also be manually triggered based on a user action. So example of that is buttons that I talked about earlier. Pressing that button would trigger your flow. Also from other apps, so Power Apps, SharePoint. SharePoint has a drop down where you can run a flow on an item manually, and that's really powerful. Another great thing is that you can run flows on a schedule, so your trigger is that schedule. It's very configurable. I think you can run it every minute, you can run it every day, you can set it to a certain amount of hours, and the flow will trigger and then perform based on that schedule. So flow actions. What do you want your flow to do? What do you trying to accomplish. So the job that the workflow performs. There are hundreds of actions that flows can perform because there's so many services that it can connect with. Some of the main words you will see: get, list, create, edit, post, update, send, text, translate. You'll start to see the same action words just with different services. Also, you can add multiple actions to your flow, and you can reorder them by dragging and dropping them where you want. So it's pretty nice. And conditions, you may not even need any conditions in your flow. You could just have a trigger that starts off a series of actions or just one action. But conditions allow for a workflow to perform only when something is true. So when one value is equal to another, for example. And when you get into conditions, you may need to start using what are called expressions. And there's going to be a session on expressions, later in the day. Okay, so templates. I really want to talk about templates because they're a great way to get started with flow and get ideas on how to use it. For people who are not familiar with business process automation, they're new to Office 365, they've never done flow, taking a look at templates is a just quick and easy way for you to get ideas on how to use it and what it can do. You can search for them based on the type or the service or some keyword on what you want your flow to do, and then you connect with the services necessary. So the other thing to keep in mind when you see all these flow templates and actions, you have to have that service to be able to use that. So MailChimp, for example, is a connector. If you don't have an actual account with MailChimp, you're not going to be able to use that service. Also, templates are nice because you can make modifications to them. So you can use it as a base and then make modifications if you'd like to. And then that's it. It's done and you can start using it. Approvals. Approvals are another thing I really like to talk about when we're just getting started with flow, especially talking to organizations. Approvals are such a huge part of a lot of businesses' day-to-day work. They create content or they make requests and they have someone who needs to approve it or a series of people who need to approve it. They might need to have sequential, parallel approvals, or everyone must approve from a group. The great thing about Flow is that there's an approval center where you can see in a unified place all of your approvals that you have received and you have sent, and then the history of that. And also you can approve directly from an email in your inbox. You can approve from the approval center in Flow, or you can approve from your mobile device. And so the screenshot here is an example of approving from your mobile device, and this is what you will see in the approval center in Flow down at the bottom. All right, so let's take a tour of Microsoft Flow. All right, so here is the Flow home site. So you'll see here, it starts right off with a way to search for a template. Here's where you can see where you have approvals pending that you need to take action on. Here are the featured template collections. So they've put together templates in verticals. So if you're doing software development, or if you're part of a sales team or marketing team, they've put them together in collections so that you can get a better idea of how you can benefit from Flow. So here's how you get to your approval center on the left. So I'm going to go into the approval center and show you that. So here's 2 approvals that I've received that I need to take action on, and I can do that right from here. I could also email the requester or reassign this. I copy a link. And in history, I will see all of my approval histories, whether they're canceled, rejected, approved, and it keeps that list, and you can filter based on received or sent. All right, let's take a look at the templates. And I'm going to search for Twitter. I want to save tweets that include a specific hashtag to a SharePoint list. And I want to save all of the tweets from today's conference into a SharePoint list. So when I select this template, it shows me where it will connect to. So if I didn't have these connectors, it's going to prompt you to create these connectors, which will basically mean putting in your username and password. All right, so when a new tweet appears, so here's where I'm going to put in the hashtag. Now I'm going to select the SharePoint site and list that I want to create this in. And here, I want to also have the user that sent the tweet show up in my list. So this has opened up dynamic content where it's going to give me basically all of the outputs from this tweet. So I'm going to choose name of the user and I'm going to save. And I'm going to leave the flow saved. And here on the screen, it just kind of gives you a nice quick overview of what you have going on with your flow. So I have these connections. These are the owners. So I could add another owner of this flow, which is really best practice if it's going to be used for an organization or enterprise. You want to have at least 2 owners of a flow, so if someone leaves your organization, the other person can take over when edits are needed and nothing breaks. So we just created a flow using a template in just, very few minutes. Another thing I want to show you, if you click here on more commands, I can export this flow into a .zip file and save it. And I could reuse this in a different tenant or send it to a different organization if they wanted to use the same thing. It's really not usually necessary for something as simple as a template, but as your flows get more and more complex, you might want to package them up and save them because versioning is not available in Microsoft Flow at this point. All right, so let's test this flow. So here I am in Twitter. I'm in my test Twitter handle, and I'm going to use the hashtag that will trigger our flow. I'm going to send that tweet out. And also, I will give you a warning that if you're using this template, if you're using a very popular hashtag, you can quickly fill up a SharePoint list if people are tweeting about it a lot. It's happened to me and several other flow fanatics that I know. All right, so the tweet is there. Now, going to our list, here we have it, the tweet title along with the user. So we have success. Let's go back to that flow. And you can see the run history when it happened, and you can see that it succeeded. All right, that was fun. Now, how about we create another flow from a template, shall we? So this time I'm going to search for Teams, meaning Microsoft Teams, one of my other favorite Microsoft products. And what I want it to do is to post a message to Teams with a link to a SharePoint item with a message that I choose to write. So that template's right here. Post a message to Microsoft Teams for a selected item. Now let's see if it's happy with my connections. And we've got green check marks, so it is. And I'm going to use that same list that we used to gather those hashtags for the conference. So I'm going to find my site, find my list. Now I'm going to find that same site again and that same list, and for the get item action. And now I'm going to choose my Microsoft team and channel. So I'm going to say sales team in the general channel. And I'm going to save. And so you can use this flow checker to see if you have any errors, and it'll give you some information about your errors if you do. I have no errors. So now I'm going to go back to that list. And I'm going to refresh it. And I'm going to select the item that I want to link to in Microsoft Teams message. And then you'll see there's this flow drop down, and now this is modern SharePoint. Keep that in mind. I'm going to choose the flow, post a message to Microsoft Teams. Continue. And here's where I can send the message. That's going to go with the link. And I'm going to say, check out this message about the flow conference. And now I'm going to hit run. Started. I'm going to open up Microsoft Teams. And on the left here, I have all my teams and my channels. I'm going to go to the general sales channel and see if it's worked yet. And here we go. Check out this message about the Flow conference and a link. That brings us to the item. So this is just another simple, useful thing that, some organizations might have a need for, some might not. But it's just, these are ways to get you thinking. You're connecting your data between your different Office 365 services and Twitter, which is a third-party services, and this is really just the beginning of what Flow is capable of. I'm going to go back to Flow. I'm going to go here, say OK, and just show that should have run history here, then that it succeeded. Another thing that I want to show you is the connectors. So if you click here on the left, here's popular connectors, recently added connectors. There's hundreds and hundreds of connectors. So just to scroll through them really quick, it's pretty amazing. You can search for them here. And then another thing is this learning area, which is really great because it breaks it out from I'm a beginner, intermediate, expert, admin, and you can go into these different tabs and get learning resources, do video courses. There's just so much content here, so this is another great resource to have to get started in using Microsoft Flow. Another thing I want to show you is the Flow user group site. I highly recommend trying to find a local Flow user group that you can be part of or join the online community. Really, there's just so much value in meeting other people that have the same passions with you, that like working on flows, that like solving problems. It's just, you really can't compare the community and the value that it can bring. I'm going to go back to my slide. So now let's walk again through how to get started. First thing you're going to want to do is sign up for Microsoft Flow if you don't have an account already. So you can get a free account if you just want to start trying it. Also, if you have an Office 365 account, then you should have Flow available to you. So then you're going to want to review some of the Flow learning materials. There's so many awesome blogs out there by some of my friends and colleagues where they really go into detail and provide information on how to do different things with Flow, beginner to very advanced. Also, the Learning Center that I just showed you that you can access right from Flow in this Learn link. So then I really encourage you to think about your day-to-day business processes, the services and tools that you use, and think about where you can automate. Find your use case. Be a champion for Flow. Really get your feet wet and come up with a great use case for that very first one for your organization. Also, create your first flow from a template. Take a look through the templates, get ideas, and then just go ahead and create one. And even if it's just a very simple one that's going to be just for your own personal use, everyone has to start somewhere. Then you can create your first custom flow, add your trigger, add your actions, maybe add some conditions, and then last but definitely not least, to get started, you really should connect with the Flow community. There's forums online where you can ask your questions and people respond and are very generous with their time and helping people out. There's the Flow user groups on Twitter, following some of the speakers that are speaking today, John Levesque. Everybody's really excited about Flow, really passionate, and really wants to help others. So that would be my recommendation on how to get started. And if you have other ideas, please use that Flow, MSFlowConf hashtag and put some ideas out on Twitter. I'd love to hear them. So thank you. Again, if you have any questions, tweet me. There's the hashtag right there. Or feel free to email me. And thank you again for having me. You have a great day ahead of you with some awesome sessions. And let's go make your first flow. Let me know about it. I want to see some cool flows today. All right? Thanks.